Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio, and frankly, ladies and gentlemen, we have got pretty big news. Pretty big news indeed. You see, Pokemon have gone and officially announced the rotation, which is going to be happening later on this year. So, even though I've got to kind of run to go and get my kids in like 20 minutes, and my wife's working late, so I'm going to be editing this while desperately trying not to wake up my children and uploading later than I'd like to. The rotation's been announced. What am I going to do? Not cover it as soon as possible? Doesn't sound like me, ladies and gentlemen. That does not sound like me. We have had the official announcement, and here is what it says. Now, the start of this I do find very interesting indeed. At the beginning of every Championship Series season, Pokémon Organized Play removes older expansions from competition in the standard format with the goal of maintaining a healthy competitive environment. This rotation challenges existing players to create new strategies and enables new players to get involved in play Pokemon events using the most recent releases. Now, in other games I've had this conversation as to whether rotation is a good thing or not. That is not really where we're going today. I like rotation in Pokemon. We can have the is rotation good or not discussion another time. But for now, I want to bring your attention, and they had the exact same wording in last year's announcement, removes older expansions from competition in the standard format. They are pretty much saying, look mate, we are not planning on rotating expanded. And true to form, there is an announcement as part of this that reads, the expanded format for 2022. Remember, it starts in 2021 but goes into 2022, so that's why we have this. The expanded format will remain unchanged for the 2022 season, maintaining the black and white series and forward. Players should double check what format is being used before choosing a deck to bring to their events. Though every so often someone does turn up to an expanded format with a standard format deck, you can't do it the other way round for obvious reasons. But every so often someone will top deck an expanded format with a standard deck, kind of playing with one hand tied behind their back, and that person is always a little bit of a hero. Just like the standard format, new expansions become legal for tournament play 2 weeks after release. And do remember, there's a bunch of bans in the expanded format. The ban list it's been published. We've talked about all of those, though maybe we'll have a refresher soon. We'll get to that when we get to it. So, the expanded format is the same. What do we see from the standard format? I mean, look, I made a video a few weeks ago telling you what the next rotation would be, and at the risk of blowing my own trumpet, called it. And look, this was not a particularly difficult rotation to predict. Obviously, the rotation is Sword and Shield on. It is Regulation Mark D. We'll get there in a moment. But this was always going to happen. Because last year, they told us about Regulation Marks. They brought them in. And the entire point of having Regulation Marks is that it makes things like this nice and easy. And this year we do have a super nice and easy rotation. It is Sword and Shield onwards. Because every time they start a new block, like the Sword and Shield block, what they essentially do is change card design. So this time round, in the Sword and Shield block, they look different to cards in the Sun and Moon block. So every Sword and Shield card, whether it's a main series card or a mini set card, something like Shining Fates, or whether it's a promo card, they all look like Sword and Shield cards. So it's super nice and easy. This is a very, very, very simple rotation. Next year, however, it is not going to be simple at all. Just as a quick head force for next year, we're not going to spend too long on it, but next year is blatantly going to be Rotation Mark E and onwards. We'll talk about this more, well, I'll probably do my prediction video next March. That's probably where we're going to go for. And the thing is that if we look at Shining Fates, it is not uniform at all. So we've got things like Cramorant VMAX, a very good card that has proven to be a very good deck. That has Regulation Mark D, because it was actually released as a promo-y kind of thing before Shiny Star V, which was the Japanese equivalent of Shining Fates. But if we look at cards like Kyogre Amazing Rare, which is a card that was actually in Shining Fates, again, it's got Regulation Mark D. But then we could look at things like Celebi that was in a Venusaur VMAX deck released after Shiny Star V over in Japan, and that has Regulation Mark E. So next year, we're actually going to cut Shining Fates in half. Some of it, i.e. Shiny Star V and back, will be rotated out, and some of it, everything after Shiny Star V in Japan, will be legal for us. But it means we'll have the same format as Japan. It means things will be easier. Life is good. Here's what Pokémon said. The 2022 standard format rotation will officially go into effect on September the 10th, 2021. Going forward, card legality will be linked to regulation mark rather than expansion release. Like I've said, this year we got Dion, next year we've got Eon. Starting with a Sword and Shield series, cards have a letter on the bottom of the card, the regulation mark, that signifies whether or not a card is legal for tournament play. Note that not all cards from the same expansion will necessarily have the same regulation mark. That's what I was saying about Shining Fates, half of it's D and half of it's E. For the 2022 season, cards with D and E regulation mark are legal for use, as well as any future regulation marks that may be released. As of right now, that includes all cards from the Sword and Shield expansion forward. New cards still must follow the appropriate waiting period to become tournament legal, which is typically 2 weeks from their release. Support for the Fairy type in the Pokémon TCG stopped in the Sword and Shield series. Now that all the Sun and Moon series is rotating out of the standard format, basic Fairy energy will not be legal for use in the standard format in the 2022 season. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. They are actually rotating basic Fairy energy. There's no real reason to do this other than it would be kind of confusing if we could all play basic Fairy, but there were no Fairy Pokemon with which to use them. This announcement remains completely tight-lipped on Dragon Pokemon. We still have no idea what's going on in terms of Dragon Pokemon. I am sorry. Grouping cards by regulation mark should make it clearer which cards are legal to use in the standard format. Future format rotations will be more predictable as well. I am still going to do my prediction video in March like I've done for years. It's just now I'm basically guaranteed to be right. I suppose it's going to be more of an early look at the rotation than an actual prediction, because I know I said that the rotation would be Sun and Moon on, and I'm giving myself a very tongue-in-cheek pat on the back for being correct, but they told us last rotation that this year will be Dion. They are basically telling us this year the rotation will be Eon next year. For example, the 2023 season rotation will remove all cards with a deregulation mark from the standard format. The exact date of that rotation will be announced at a later time. Yeah, that's right. They've actually told us next year's rotation as well. Older versions of cards that don't have a regulation mark can still be used if the card is currently legal for tournament play. So for instance, the switch from the Sun and Moon expansion can still be used because the switch from the Sword and Shield expansion has a deregulation mark. I'm going to go one further, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you that the switch from base set can still be used because the switch from Sword and Shield has a regulation mark. Cool. Now, there are a few things which are interesting to note here, largely along the lines of the fact that actually we didn't have an organised play format this year. We just kind of jumped over organised play entirely. There were some people predicting that there would be no rotation because we didn't have a standard format this year. That was never on the cards, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason very simply is it would throw everything out of whack. Pokemon have told us in years past they want to introduce 4 sets a year and rotate 4 sets a year. They want to have a certain amount of cards legal for tournament play. If they skipped rotation this year, then we would have a year with too many cards legal, and that is just not what Pokemon wants. The lack of a rotation was never really a serious consideration, so that was never really going to happen. Yes, it does mean that certain cards, basically the tag teams, never had a World Championships. I'm sorry, That's just the way it is. So, what's actually been rotated out? Well, we've been in the Team Up On format for a little while now, which means that we have rotated out the Team Up set. We rotated out Unbroken Bonds, we rotated out Unified Minds, and we rotated out Cosmic Eclipse. They are the 4 main sets which have gone and been rotated. We also then went ahead and rotated Hidden Fates and Detective Pikachu. Okay, fine, not the most impactful sets ever, but still, it's important to note that they've gone away. In terms of promo cards, it's really simple. If it is a Sword and Shield era promo card, i.e. it's got the Sword and Shield numbering and it's got the design of a Sword and Shield card, it's legal for tournament play. If it doesn't, then it isn't. I'm going to follow up with you guys in the very near future about exactly what this means. Obviously, it gets rid of a whole bunch of decks. So, Blacephalon is gone away. Obviously, Arceus and Alga and Palkia and decks along those lines have completely gone away. Mewtwo and Mew decks have completely gone away. Fire decks based around Welder are no longer going to actually be a thing. They have had to go away. And we finally say goodbye to Pikachu and Zekrom. Every single time a new set comes along, we say, oh, ho, ho, Pikachu and Zekrom, it's never going to survive that new set. Well, it always has up until now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am afraid to tell you that Pikachu and Zekrom's time will truly come to an end. It will be rotated out, which is a little bit sad, but I think we can all agree it's had a very good run. I will, at the end of this video, you should see a little bit of a link you can click on to go to my rotation prediction video, and I will link it in the description at the top as well. But essentially, in that video, I went through just a little bit of an aperitif, so to speak, just running through some of the main losses we're going to see from this rotation. I don't know if I want to do a video going through every set and what's going to be lost. I don't know how popular they'll be. Let me know in the comment if you want that, but I will absolutely certainly bring you a good old look at some point as to exactly what is going to happen with the rotation. If you do want a proper breakdown by set, do let me know and I will see what I can do. For now, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the news. The other thing to note, of course, that this rotation is coming into effect on September the 10th. That doesn't really mean anything, because we don't have a World Championships. The huge question would have been whether the rotation comes in before or after the World Championships, but given that Worlds is cancelled this year, it is entirely irrelevant whether it's just before or just after when Worlds would have been, because there is no Worlds. So it's kind of a moot point at this stage. Yes, I know the rotation is happening after Worlds would have happened, but the thing is that had Worlds happened, there is a very good chance the rotation would have happened at a different time anyway. I suppose we will never know. For now, ladies and gentlemen, that is what you need to know about the rotation. It is a very big rotation. Like I say, do check my other video where I go into more detail about exactly what the effect of it is going to be. But this is a huge rotation, which is going to completely and utterly shape up the format. And frankly, I welcome it. Except it's getting rid of Excadrill. And I love Excadrill more than I've liked any card in years. And I have not found a replacement for Excadrill. And I am legitimately gutted that Excadrill is rotating out, because I need a new pet deck. And as it stands at the moment, I don't have one. Although I'm not entirely sure how many of you are looking at this rotation and your first thought is, but what's he going to do about his favourite deck? Maybe they will. And anyone who did, I love you. You are awesome. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this rotation. I want to know which of these cards you are going to miss the most. I want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions. And it would be lovely if every single person listening could, list one card they're going to miss from the rotation. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.